Welcome, Arnold. Good to see you. Let's wait for a few more people to join. Welcome, Sudo. Good to see you as well. And Kijos as well. Good to see everyone. We have some interesting charts to talk about. So, and Lise as well. Welcome. Okay, I think more people might join a bit later. Let's first watch the bigger picture, because we are welcome, Wes de Vries. We are overall still, like, we can also for once just look at very high time frame, because price has been doing the same over and over again, so we can see what the pattern is. And the funny thing is that price does the same thing over and over again, but often because you don't zoom out, you don't see actually what's happening. Welcome, Zlatan as well, and Dylan. But if we look at what happened at the top, we had like 1, 2, 3. So a model 1 distribution, which marked the top of the current cycle, which is around 126K. And then we started moving down, where we like broke internal structure here and then main structure eventually there. And then you can see that every time price forms a range, and when you are in a downtrend, the most likely outcome of a range is to be a redistribution range, because every range that goes sideways either has the purpose to eventually push up or eventually push down. But since you are in a downtrend, high time frame, it's like more likely to continue lower. And that's also what we see here. We had like a naked low, range high, and then price was building up liquidity, took out to the range high, where big players could enter a lot of shorts, sell their positions, and then price broke lower till a new range was formed, which was this one, where we also had like a naked low, then tab 1, tab 2, deviation, also a lot of sell side liquidity created. And this is where the big players can find enough liquidity to enter massive shorts and then profit of these moves down. So redistribution range 1, redistribution range 2, and then if you look at it from this perspective, what would be the most likely outcome of this range again, until proven otherwise, it's most likely that this will once again move to the lows. And also because we have signs of a 1, 2, 3 model 1. So yeah, until proven otherwise, it's most likely that this will eventually move to the lows. And then what happens there is super interesting, because that could be potentially the bottom before maybe like along sideways and then form the range and then eventually start a new uptrend. So until proven otherwise, I think we will just continue the overall downtrend, which also, if we look at just market structure, it's basically here lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and then this is already likely the lower high before the lower low. So that's like the big picture outlook. And then this is the range we have been in with a 1, 2, 3 drive, so model 1 distribution, and then eventually like a solid break back to bearish right here, which confirmed the deviation with the most likely outcome, a rotation to your range low. Welcome, Bichelli, Gregory, good to see you. So if we look at it from this perspective, price took out quite a lot of liquidity below here, but we still have these two lows and then the range low resting below. So until proven otherwise, most likely outcome is to travel towards this low at least, and then eventually to the range low. And then if we look at the deviation, which happened here, that is now technically the manipulation area. So this is where big players entered shorts, pushed price lower. And then internally we have this is our downtrend. So this is our low, lower high, lower low. So also here, if this downtrend will continue, then the most likely outcome is that it happens from here and then continues the internal downtrend. So we have high time frame pointing lower, we have this range pointing lower, and then internal also pointing lower. And then a little trick, it's like from your swing high to your swing low, you can pull your fib levels to watch for the deepest fib retracement levels. And that is where we are like this week, where this was last week, and then we had super quiet weekend with almost no action. And then we started the week again with a strong push up, directly pushing higher into the fib levels, but front running the main supply I had marked out. So if we zoom in what happened from there, we had this aggressive push up, and then from here price basically moved. You can see this as structure and higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and that broke back to bearish right here, bearish bulls. So the uptrend was broken back to bearish, in which you have high time frame all pointing lower, and then your internal uptrend has also been broken back to bearish. I was watching for the third drive for this move, but it was yesterday evening when I was not behind the screens, but it was a nice swing failure move, which means that this is our market structure. So let's say we start here with high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and then here you wick your high. So then close below it, and then according to market structure, the low is your weak targeted low again. So after this wick, I was interested in shorts towards this low again at least. And that could also potentially be a swing short, with this being a strong high on Monday. So yesterday I let me delete this. I mentioned this range where this was our high, this was our low. Clean range. Let's delete it. Oh, like this. Then we had tap 1 at the high, tap 1 at the low, swing high, swing low. This was our tap 2. And here I saw, like, if this is a, since we SFP'd the high, I was expecting a rotation back to the low. So I was interested in a potential model 2 or in a model 1, because we front ran supply. So there was also still a reason for price to potentially take that supply, then break structure, and then go for model 1. But price was doing dirty because I saw this 10-minute supply, this last buy to sell. So I had marked that out. And then I believe on the 5 it was even more refined. Yeah, so you had 10 there, and you had 5 a little higher. And that was the Model 2 POI. Because for the Model 2, then I was like hoping for high, higher low, higher high. And if you then tap this supply and then break like internal structure, then you have a super clean Model 2 with 1, 2, 3. But instead, price did me dirty with like almost, or maybe it are equal highs. Yeah, this look like really like equal highs. So price did not hit my supply PY, therefore no entry given as well. And then price eventually completed the move back to the range low, but instead of SFPing the low. So here we SFP the high. You can watch for a rotation back to your low, but instead price broke below the range and therefore breaking the hourly structure back to bearish again. So that was a pretty strong sign that a rotation lower was likely. And then this morning I marked out like we broke out. This was like a new local range we could watch for, where we had, and you see like ranges happen over and over and over again. We are trending down, so you pull your range from low to high. So you have step one at the low, step one at the highs. Then here you see again this structure: low, lower, high. Sweep your low, do not break below it. So the magnet is now your high that was there. And this time price took the highs, like with a move without any structure. So I was looking for a sweep of this range high for short, but yeah, even if I was behind the screen, it would have been super hard to trade this because there was no structure to confirm the pulse. But eventually we deviated the high, came back in the range, and then got the rotation back to the lows again. If, for example, price made a new high here, just a wick, like a little tiny wick higher, then this would have been the market structure level. So then closing below here, then this would have been a valid short. Stop below that high, then target your range low. But instead, price also here did me dirty by not giving the clean trigger. But that's yeah, part of trading. And then afterwards, price came below it, failed to give like a good reclaim, and then broke it lower. So I now see this more as, I don't really treat this range anymore. But instead, if we zoom out, price has filled the all the single prints or the fair value gap, depends how you want to call it, since the push up on Monday. And that is now been filled while perfectly tapping into this hourly demand or 30-minute demand. It's also hourly. Oh yeah, the hourly is deeper, but the 30, that's weird. Yeah, on the 30 it's broader as on the 1 hour, which is not often the case, but you see that price perfectly tapped into it. And on the 5 we had nice structure. So basically from this high, price came down, then it came up, it swept, or is this a sweep? No, I don't think so. Then this was the lower high, then lower low, lower high, and here an SFP again. So swing failing the low, which means that your high is a targeted level, SFP. So then the most likely rotation after this wick is to get a rotation back to this targeted high. And that's also what we eventually got. And in this case, it was also a nice confluence that we filled all the single prints, which we had from this move down here. We tapped into the dirty 30-minute demand. We had a swing failure, and we had quite a lot of aggressiveness. Let's see. Here in this move, this was the move down. And then here you can see, let me show you, like open interest was going down, which means that positions are being closed. And if you go down and positions are being closed, and most often it are longs that are closing because they are puking their positions. And here we can also see on the CVD, it also went down pretty aggressively. So also see like per positions we're closing. Spot was also selling and pretty heavy negative delta. So a lot of forced selling was in this move down, which can often be a signal that price wants to at least give a relief bounce. So that was for me worth the try to get into a long. And then context is very important because in this case you have an SFP, but you cannot always blindly trust an SFP here. Because first of all, an S&P like the wick is not really confirmed until you get at least some buying candles. And you are also going against structure yet. So if you look at structure, then you have low, high, low. After the wick, after the S&P, this is still your market structure high. So basically going long before it is super dangerous. Right now you, in hindsight, see that it is a break of structure. Bullish boss. So eventually I decided to take a shot at a long. Right here, I think it was, yeah, it was anywhere right there. And now just letting it run. I think if this wants to move higher, that the entry is pretty safe because we basically backtested this local range. If this is the range, this is the push above, and we retested it here, came up, retested it here, and now pushing up. So I think if this was enough, that this can just be a higher low for a higher high, and then travel higher again. So that is just a risk-free position. And then the next POIs I'm mainly watching is, let's see, on the hourly, do we have, like the 4 hours pretty nice with that wick, but we could also just retest it. I like here on the 45 we have pretty clean demand right here. And then we have supply right here where price just tapped into, which is also the main structure. So this is like the downtrend. So we just stepped into that supply. And then in case we go higher, this is the main supply I'm watching as well. That can go away. And then let's see on 30, also pretty clean demand. This supply just got taken out. And on the 15, we have also this as structure with low, lower high, lower low. And price is now trying to break that back to bullish. It's not on the 50, not a really convincing break yet, because you see those wicks and not like a good candle body above. But breaking 50 minutes would be the next like bullish sign, because here we have a 5-minute break, back to bullish again, creating some demand, and now price trying to break 15-minute back to bullish, while tapping into supply. So gonna be pretty interesting what will happen from here, especially with Trump speaking this evening. But overall, it's not a super high probability environment yet. Could, like, let's see, could this be a new range potentially? With range high, range low. That could also potentially be the case. Because you can already see, or at least I really like to work with ranges, but so far if I see this, it doesn't look like anything too high probability. It's more like internal plays, which is also why I'm not getting too much trades yet, except some front runs of the shorts. But it could be that this is the high, this is the low, and if we then see rotations within here, then you will see that this becomes like a cleaner range we can look to work with. So in case we go back down, then I'm interested in sweeps of this low for longs, or if we go higher, look for shorts there. For now we have like high, low, almost tap of the mid range, which is for me valid. So then I'm just gonna watch, I'm just gonna put it on the range, on the chart. And then here you already broke back to bearish, so we need to keep that in mind. But on like the 3 hour, like 2 hour also broke bearish. With 3 hour and above, you could still say that this is potentially an uptrend. So then this is a valid range to look at. with locally this being demand and that is supply. And then internally, if this is the mid-range, it's also our main market structure level. So in case this breaks back to bullish, then I would say, instead of seeing it as a super clean bullish break, I would see it more like a validation of the range, and that this is our range high, this is a range low, and then just look to play the range again. So that's the view on BTC. Let me put some alerts in that demand right here. This is the market structure high, so also interested in that level. Let's clean up the range. And let's see, how is the VWAP from the high? Being tested several times already. Right now rejecting, which would be, if we can get above it, then that would for me signify that we are likely validating this range, and then just look for shorts at the range extreme and longs the lower part of the range. Then quickly looking, do we see something interesting here? Like all the positions that had been opened on that push up or have been closed, perp is relatively stable, and spot has been buying since that push and holding pretty stable. So that's often a good sign, because you want to see spot continue to support price. If they would have sold off heavily, then it would have been a very bad sign, but for now it's not looking too bad. So I think this is a pretty good range we can keep an eye on. With, like, also the low today was a poor low and the high was a poor high. So both of those levels are likely to eventually be taken out, which is this high and this low, which will further validate the range. So I think we have a good way to look at it from a new range perspective right here potentially, and then see what happens. Because here we also have this untapped POC around 67,300. Yeah. Because below this demand we have weekend lows. That's not often not what you really like. So this is all weekend lows. Just marking it out. Yeah, for now watching if we can. We broke 5 minutes back to bullish, 15 trying. If we can bounce from here, then push up, then this is the new range I'm looking at. So that's for BTCD view. Like USDT is just inverted, but we broke. What is it? It's like, if we look at the structure, we have 30-minute structure right here, which was broken to bearish on a 30. So can watch for potential rejections anywhere into supply, which is like, I will just pick this whole zone. So alert there to see if price comes into here and then rejects. That would be a nice confluence for longs on BTC. And other than that, like main structure is still high, higher low, higher high. So this could also just be a higher low for a higher high. And then see if we maybe get exhaustion into these levels. which would then again align with BTC taking out this low. Then the other pairs, like ETH, is basically the same as BTC, so not really going into it. We just more clear downtrend here with low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and it tapped into a nice demand zone, almost tapped the range POC, but yeah, nothing really too clean to work with. I want to see some more sideways before interested in it. And then Tau has my interest a lot more. Because this has been in a super strong uptrend overall. And then from here, we see like kind of like a high time frame bottom in the making, like a rounded bottom. Which is good to see also because we, from this low to that high, came into the 7.72 fib. And then we started to flip this to bullish. So then you can look potentially for this being the initiation, mitigation, and then continuation. So if we look at it, then it could be that this was the range, initiation, mitigation, continuation. And then we had two main demand PYs. First one was this one right here, which was mitigated with this tap. And then lower down we have this range demand, which was basically the last sell to buy. But I'm keeping an eye on this formation right here, because this looks pretty nice with like 1, 2, 3. So 3 drive, and then this took extreme liquidity. So this also shows like some buying absorption. And if we zoom out on the higher time frames, you can see those wicks to the downside, clearly showing that there is some buying interest at these levels. But yeah, we also have pretty deep wicks to the upside. So price a bit sandwiched. That's why I'm not pulling the trigger yet. But if we see some more strength or some more development, then I'm super interested in longs, because I think that if price next time breaks out above this range, that it's a super easy way towards all of this liquidity. And after that, this is also like there's almost no supply anymore. So then I think this will be just further completing the high time frame rounded bottom stuff, and then get like a move back to the highs, potentially further up. So for coming days, super interested in Tau, and like what happens tonight can probably play a big role in it. And a nice extra confluence is also that if we look at the VWAP from this low to current price, that price, those wicks are also at that VWAP. So that's also a nice confluence. Let's see what the VWAP from this high is. Yeah, so that's one above. So it could also be that we see this like compress a bit lower, this one a bit higher, and we see just compression into this before breakout. Let's keep this one on the chart. And then last one, Hype has been following the plans super cleanly. However, I had an alert a little bit above here to see a sweep of that market structure high to potentially get into a short here before a long later. And right now we basically have low, lower high, lower low. But this is more of like is it an SFP? Let's see. Yeah, it's kind of like an SFP. So then the high becomes target level. So it is a bit hard how it is forming itself, but I'm super interested in longs. Question only is where to get into the position. Basically, have a look from the high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So internally, this is our market structure high. And like we don't have, most demand is mitigated. So there's not really a reason for price to go much lower, I think. Like this was the last hourly demand, which was perfectly tapped twice. So I think hype could also be pretty close to a breakout. We have a 30-minute demand right below. Right there. So maybe if price is so kind, it could form another lower high, come back for lower low into here, and potentially look for something internally like a 3 drive. That would be super, super clean. I'm putting an alert at the high there and then at the near the lows. For now, I cannot really take a long because I'm not super confident yet. But if I see some more sideways and then like maybe this is the new range, with this the range low, this the range high, this step 2, and then get like a model 2 or a model 1, then the invalidation is super clean, and then I'm definitely interested in longing this. So yeah, that's the plan on hype. So hype is clear, I think. Tau is clear. BTC, oh, BTC is also pretty clear. I think this it's highly dependent on what is gonna happen tonight. So could be that tomorrow I'm not gonna stay awake for it because I wouldn't be surprised either if Trump is just gonna do something weird again, and yeah, I'm not gonna lose sleep over that. But it could be that if something big happens tomorrow, we either make new lows or we have a strong push. So let's see what the market does. And the most important thing for that one will be what oil is doing. So I wanted to go over oil now. But first I see a question from Lise. Maybe this is part of your educational content on Discord and I haven't got there yet. But right now I see buses everywhere and when forms a range, a real structure to act upon. Maybe it's part of your education and I haven't got there yet. But right now I see buses everywhere. Yes, and when forms a range, a real structure to act upon. Yeah, the thing is like you always have like local structure, but most of the times you have a range. So in a range you will also have structure. So I'm anticipating that this is the range high, this is the range low. But in that range you will see that you also have structure you can work with. However, when price is in a clear range, then more often you will see that you have fake breaks to the upside and fake breaks to the downside, especially if you are near the mid-range. So let's say this is the mid-range. Then here you will see like a lot of flip-flops from bullish market structure to bearish market structure. So then it's important to note that you are in a range. And a good indication of that you are in a range is if your structure flips, for example, to bearish, and then afterwards flips back to bullish. If it flip-flops, then you know, okay, likely I'm in a range. And then in a range, you should pay a little bit less attention to the structure. Then I mostly pay attention to structure at the lows and at the highs. I hope that answered it a bit. So I'm not 100% sure if I interpreted your question the right way. Kijos is also smart. He got the attention of the whole world, but not of us. We know better. He can talk what he wants. I'm not gonna lose my sleep over it. So we have, let's first zoom out on oil, which has been the lead indicator of what is actually happening. And since that crazy push up start of March, this has basically been the range. So we had a range high, range low, and then here we had local range, move down, push up again, and now we are in like the extreme premium of this range, where there is also basically no supply anymore. It's a super big wick. And then we had some supply here. This was the last buy to sell, so 2 hour supply. But beside that, okay, I see we have some more, like this is more refined. And then this is even more refined. Let's take the most refined level because we are already in extreme premium. Let's see if price is, yeah, okay, so that's it. Did price already tap it? Yeah, so like basically all supply has been taken. So price is really close to the high time frame range high. And while moving into it, it is showing like a tree drive, which is often a signal of exhaustion. Because otherwise you have like, if it is strength, you have like a clear uptrend. And this is not a clear uptrend. Instead, you are like showing exhaustion by more or less giving sweeps of your highs and not break above it. So based on this, I would not, or at least if I would have to predict Trump's his whatever he's gonna do, I would say the chart to me tells that lower is likely. But that is just purely the chart. But normally if I see 1, 2, 3, model 1 distribution, I will think this goes lower. However, we can look, is there a good structure confirmation? So this is the third tab. We don't have 30-minute structure into it. We do not have 15 either. We do have 10. So then if we look at it from here, with 1, with 2, with 3, and this internal uptrend is like high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. And that one broke back to bearish right here. So technically this is a valid one. And we are also back under the value area high. So technically you could say that this is your manipulation and that now most likely outcome is to rotate back to the lows. Especially since we have this liquidity still intaken, which looks super good. So then we can look, is price leaving something behind? And also if you look, like often a model 1 or model 2, if you just zoom out, then on the high time frame you will see those wicks. Like here, those deep wicks. That shows that there are a lot of sellers present here. If we have it to the other side, for example, here we had it, those continuous wicks, that means that the market is going down, but that someone is absorbing all those cells, and then you get those super deep wicks. But now we get them to the other side, which means that someone Like there is buying power, but there's also someone absorbing all the buying power and is trying to, or at least giving some resistance. So let's see if we have some POIs to look at for the people that are gonna sit behind the screen. 15, so we have 30 minutes right there. But this is like clean 15-minute supply. This is the boss level. And also on the 15, we have basically like low, high, lower, low. So this supply also protects the internal bearish market structure. So an alert there. No, not a trade. Alert there. And then I would look. Okay, let's first see if we have more supply higher up. Because if you have supply higher up, then there is a reason for price to potentially make a move higher. There is some here as well. It's not really significant. So at this point, I would say like, it looks like the 3 drive is in. So then if you see weakness here, would be a potential short. But be aware that it's super news driven. So a lot of people will watch what Trump has to say. And likely his friends and his son will already be positioning themselves. Deepest possible move is also to tap into this supply and then reverse and then eventually go to the low. That is what I see purely based on the chart. If he's gonna bump iron like he says, then the chart will be invalidated and we likely go to the range high around 120. But yeah, let's hope that's not the case. And also would be nice to just see that the chart tells everything we need to know. In which this was maybe already peak fear. And that now the closer he gets to his talks, that we already sell off. So I'm curious how we will wake up tomorrow. Because I believe the deadline is at 2 a.m. midnight for me. So yeah, before he has then done something, it's already like 3 o'clock. And I'm not gonna wait for that. So super curious to see how that develops. And then yeah, for the rest, crypto will probably just be waiting for some kind of signal. Like, is it terrible what is gonna happen? Then risk assets, including all of crypto, will go down. And if it's less worse than a lot of people are anticipating, then I think we can see some good relief higher. And then we can just play with the trend. So there's no need to also be in already. Because if this, for example, hype breaks above here, then you always either get like a local range we can look to play, or you get like, if you leave demand behind, then price comes there and then demand, mitigate demand, break structure, that long it, stop loss here, and then we can just play it higher up. So I think coming week will be super interesting. But yeah, like the orange man can, he has like a lot of influence on what will be the outcome. Lisa is saying sort of thanks. I guess I'm looking for certainties that are never there, low time frame. Yeah, it's like on the low time frame, it can flip flop around. So if you have like, look at the hourly structure, then it's already way more reliable for the 15-minute. And the lower you go, the more often you will also see that price flip flops from bearish back to bullish, back to bearish. So yeah, it's a bit hard to watch at the like lower time frames, which is also what DJOS is saying, I think. Sometimes I get a bit lost in low time frame, like 1 to 5 minutes. So when I'm unsure, I stick to 5. Yes. Yeah, like for market structure, especially in the beginning, I would not go under 5 minutes. But yeah, often indeed 15 minutes is already better. Otherwise, you will get like a lot of fake breaks. And that is where you get a bit more advanced. Then you will see, like, for example, this can be a fake break. This be a fake break back to bullish with the pure intent to mitigate supply here and then continue lower. Or like get a fake break lower. But there is always a reason why price does a certain thing, why it makes a fake break higher or lower. But on the lower time frame, it will happen much more often than on the high time frame. Like this wick could be, for example, to mitigate this little supply zone before continuing down with the overall downtrend. Could be. Could also just be that this goes from here back up higher. Then I think that for now, most things are clear, and I'm not gonna take any fresh positions anymore till tomorrow. So yeah, I'm curious what to wake up with too, and I hope it's not that I wake up to some crazy news that Iran is gone. I don't think so, but there are more important things than the chart sometimes. So let's hope it all stays relatively calm. And then tomorrow we should have some interesting setups ahead, especially with how the charts are looking. So hope it doesn't change too much overnight. Yeah, it's important to find the balance indeed. What I always advise is to start with your market structure on the high time frame and then go to the lower time frame and not the other way around. Because otherwise, sometimes you want to go behind your screen and you are automatically at like 10 minutes. And if you then only look at the 10-minute market structure, then you don't get the total view of like the total context around the market. So I always like best is to start even at daily and then go to like lower time frames. And then you have like the full picture in your mind. Otherwise, if you start at the 5 and you only see this, you can already see like a small part of what the actual context is. Then for now, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Tomorrow I will be behind the screen during the morning for the updates, and we'll be live streaming New York Open, or like half an hour later. Maybe I do it a bit earlier. It depends on what the market. If it's super interesting, I might also stream Market Open during New York. So let's see, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow. And yeah, hopefully we don't wake up to too weird of the news. And hopefully we heard that Trump was once again throwing in one of his bluff cards. But yeah, we will see. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and have a great rest of the evening. And we stay in touch.